Hello, welcome or welcome back to Sapling Tarot. My name is Imogen. Today I'm going to be talking to you about what's been floating my boat for the first 3 months of 2024. This is going to be some reflections on the last 3 months, but also I'm going to be sharing some very loose plans because I was inspired by Angel of Feeding My Soul 1212 and their tag of up and coming decks and intentions. So I thought that while I'm telling you about the decks I've been using, I might tell you about the decks that I'm planning to use. I'm going to talk you through my monthly themes that were dictated by the year ahead reading that I did, that you can find in one of my 12 days of Yule videos, the one about divination, if you're interested, and then also the decks and the cards that I've been working with through that. I'm then going to move on to some nature observations and photos. Then I'm going to talk about some things that I've done, and then some plans, some stuff about videos, so the favourite ones that I've already filmed this year, and then some ones that I'm planning on filming, and then I'm going to go into some other stuff I've been doing, so like what I've been studying, what I've been watching, what I've been playing, what I've been listening to, that kind of stuff. What is noticeably absent from this list is the things I've been reading, and that will be coming on Thursday in its whole own video about what I've been reading and what I've been planning to read. So if that sounds good to you, I hope you will stick with me and let's get into it. So in January I was working with the White Newman Sacred Animal deck, which I think I showed in a couple of videos, and I was working with the archetype of the Empress. I really like the Empress in this deck. I do feel like it's maybe missing some symbolism for if you're not super confident with tarot, in terms of the creativity or, I mean, even kind of fertility and stuff. I mean, you've got some leaves and some tools and stuff around her belt, and you've got these stars and stuff, but I just think that she looks so determined that this was very much the kind of Empress that I was really happy to be working with in January, which for me was largely, just realised that cloud looks so much like a rabbit. The kind of the theme that I ended up having for January was more one of hibernation, if I'm honest. I had a little bit of a slow start to the year, not as slow as some years, but it was, yeah, not the quickest of beginnings. So it was kind of a time of thinking about like planting seeds and intentions and thinking about creatively where I want to be going this year. And then as part of my year ahead reading, I also had these magical guidance cards. So I think this was the card that I pulled, which is ideas about home and comfort and territory and stuff, which I thought kind of suited the Venusian energies of the Empress. But then also I was like thinking about protection quite a lot. So these are the cards that are, so you've got like defense, and then protection in kind of like a cleansing sense, and protection in like a warding sense. So these are the cards that I was working with through the month of January from the Magical Guidance cards deck. And yeah, I was using the White Newman deck, which I really love, and I was really, really happy to get back out. Then in February, my theme ended up being kind of like love and community, because you know, I'm super original, and I used the Goddess of Love tarot by Gabriella Herstick and the Oracle of the Roses by Sherilyn Darcy as my decks for the month, because I was doing a lot of readings around love and a lot of kind of like introspection and like reflection and stuff about love in my life. And the theme that I had from the magical guidance cards was this idea of like connection and communication. So I was like making, one of my goals for this year is like making a real effort to reach out and see people and spend more time with people, rather than being quite so insular, because as I've got more well, if you can say that. I've realised that while I am quite an introverted person, I need to balance that with like the desire for connection and stimulation and community, and like kind of practicing what I preach in terms of not having all of your eggs in one basket. And so trying to be less irritating to the people I live with, and kind of trying to find connection outside of the house, and make more friends and talk to other people and stuff. So yeah, the card that I was working with, that was on top for a reason, Imogen. The card I was working with tarot-wise was the Eight of Cups, which I think this is a great card. But it can be kind of like a melancholy, the loner, perfect. It can be a bit of a melancholy card. It kind of transpired that became relevant that month of February, because the magazine that I've been working for the last couple of years is converting to being like a wholly kind of digital platform. And so there isn't like regular work for me there anymore, or certainly not paid work. So that's a bit of an Eight of Cups moment of leaving something behind that's been like a little bit of stability for me for the past couple of years. It's like the only piece of regular paid work I've had for quite a while, so leaving that behind is difficult, but moving on to the next thing. So that was my February decks and cards and themes and stuff. Let's put you back on top for, there we go. And then, so between, or kind of combining February and March, I was also doing some inner teen work with the Ysha Tarot, which is my oldest deck and the deck that I had when I was a teenager. And then also the Outgrow Yourself Tarot and Oracle mixed with the Magical Guidance cards. And that makes a really fun inner teen spread that was kind of, the idea of doing inner teen work was kind of inspired by Anna at Astral Lady Tarot. And so using her deck seemed the natural thing, but also I think that this deck is I think in my most recent video, I talked about how this is kind of my teen self deck, or yeah, I mean, it's just kind of what works for me. And so yeah, I just wanted to add that in to the monthly decks because that's something I've been doing. And then also this is the deck that I've got pulled out for Aries season, because I'm kind of shifting my deck of the month to go with the zodiac seasons rather than calendar months. So then for March, the theme was kind of interesting because the card I had for March was the Tower. So I was a little bit nervous all month, which is very much a reason to not do a year ahead reading. I'll have some thoughts by the end of the year about what I think about doing year ahead readings and if I'm going to do them again and stuff, but I'll save that for then. The decks that I was using was the Thoth Tarot and the Sistel Oracle, and the cards that I had from the Magical Guidance cards were to do with candle magic. And so I've got the candle wax card and then the candle carving, crafting thing. And so this ended up being more of to do with focus. So in that tangentially, is it Latin thing about focus and fire and stuff. So that it kind of ended up being to do with a month of studying and kind of diving into some psychology stuff. Oh yeah, I also had the self-tending fire card. Where can I put you? I'll put you there. And so all of these together were kind of transpiring to be this idea of focus. And so I had a little bit of a mental health dip, nothing major, I'm fine. So I kind of did a bit more inward, I kind of knuckled down to study, It was my final month at the magazine, and then also I was prompted by the occult tea tag that I filmed the VR to, but I also watched a lot of the VRs to it, was this idea about critical thinking and about how important it is, but how few people feel really confident in their abilities with it, and how it's something that we all need to be really mindful of, and like tech literacy and media literacy and stuff like that. So I've been doing kind of research around how to learn more about it, and then kind of how to pass that on in like a really approachable and accessible way. Because I mentioned this in my occulty VR, but there were quite a lot of people saying like, oh, just, use critical thinking skills. And my kind of like beginner's mind thing of being like, but what are critical thinking skills? How do you can't just tell someone to know something. That doesn't really help anyone. So I was thinking about like, how can we collectively get better at these things, and like sharing prompts to be better at these things. So that was a lot of March. And then also I've been doing more research into internal family systems, which I will talk about more when I talk about books on Thursday, and rejection sensitivity. I can never say it. Rejection sensitivity dysphoria, which I know that Krista at Krista Chronicles has done a video about with tarot, but I think I want to make one myself as well, because it's something that I think a lot of people experience but I don't know a name for. So yeah, it's been interesting because over the past couple of years I've been working quite hard to de-center kind of like Western colonial ideas about psychology, despite the fact that psychology has always been like a special interest of mine. So it's been quite interesting to kind of like jump back into that world. Yeah, and then so it was about kind of balancing this idea of community that is becoming more and more of a like a really strong priority in me, and about really moving away from the way that I was raised to be very kind of individualistic and self-reliant and all of that kind of stuff. And that didn't go so well for me. But I also think that it doesn't really go so well for anyone. And shifting my gaze into this kind of less colonial mindset around what we should be able to do for ourselves and what we should be able to do for each other and things. And so this was a really interesting card that really caught my eye. There's no like other reason that this card has been with me. It's just that it really kind of grabbed something in me, because I think that this card has been helping me get those thoughts and feelings out about like the way I was raised versus the way that I want to be now, and thinking about, so the idea of this card being, how can you go after what you want in a way that doesn't require anything but what you already have? So whether that's like within you or the resources you already have access to, but like rather than buying something or expecting someone else to provide something for you, like what can you do yourself? Which I think is always a really valuable question. But then it's about like balancing that with the fact that like my primary desires now are probably things to do with like community and connection and solidarity and stuff, and you can't do that by yourself. So it's been really interesting to kind of work through those questions with that card. And then moving on into working with the sun seasons instead of the calendar seasons or the calendar months. Words. So for Aries season, I've got the Outgrow Yourself Tarot and Oracle. And so going into the rest of Aries season, going into April, this is the deck that I'm going to be using, and I've already been using it for a little bit and really loving it. Had a really interesting, just like simple 3-card reading with it this morning that I'm really happy with. I mean, not happy. Happy's the wrong word with tarot, isn't it? But like, it just felt really juicy and something to really get into. So this is what I'm working with for Aries season, and then moving into, and my April cards are to do with moon magic. So I'm quite happy with that. and the tarot card I'm working with is the Ten of Wands. So I'm feeling a bit like manifesting an anti-capitalist reality is kind of the energy that I'm working with for Aries season and the rest of April anyway. And then in Taurus season, I'm hoping to work with the Herb Crafters Tarot because that feels right to me. So that's my decks I've been using and the decks that I'm planning to use. So nature observations, notable mentions are the dwarf irises that we grew that came out so early and were so vibrant and joyful. They were just so wonderful. I took so many pictures. If you follow me on Instagram, you're probably sick to death of hearing about them and seeing them. We also grew snowdrops for the first time in ages from bulbs, which was really exciting. Nature-wise, I'm buzzing for the long days, which is not very original, but it's the truth. And yeah, and then the winter flowering cherry blossoms in Glasgow are always a highlight of my the early part of the year. It means that I have to get out of the house. It means I have to get into the city if I want to see them, which is really good motivation because they're often over by the time spring has really sprung. So yeah, it's those are really fabulous. The other bulbs that we've been growing, which have been coming out amazingly since we've been in spring proper, have been an abundance of different sorts of daffodils, and then some muscari, like grape hyacinth type things, and then near where I live there's just been blankets of crocuses. Cherry blossom around here doesn't come out until later in the year. And then amongst all of the bulbs and the flowers and the blossoms that have started coming back, we've had the bees, which are always just an incredible boost to my morale. They are my favourite and my best, and the little fluffs make me so happy, and to see them come back always it tugs me out of, or pulls me out of whatever slump I may well be in. Things that I've done over the last 3 months, starting off with the Tabby Midwinter Conference, which was fantastic. I'm always really grateful that they do the remote conferences because I'm not in a position where I can, travel and afford to stay in a hotel or whatever, but also from a COVID risk standpoint, I'm not really inclined to go and stand in a conference with loads of other unmasked people breathing on each other. So really grateful that they offer remote options. Some highlights, I can't mention everyone that did workshops and stuff, but some highlights include Chelsea Pippin Mizzy, who's the author of that Tarot Spreads yearbook, which I'll admit, when I'd seen floating around, I didn't really think it was for me. I'm not a huge other people's tarot spreads person anymore. I used to keep meticulous notes of other people's tarot spreads and find them on Pinterest and all that kind of stuff, but that's just kind of not how my practice is at the moment, so I wasn't super inclined to pick it up. But after doing her workshop, I really like the way that she works with tarot and with ideas of seasons, and that the seasons are kind of flexible depending on where you are in your life and where you are geographically and all of that kind of stuff. So yeah, I want to pick up that book, and I also am going to be following her and her tarot journey with great interest. She writes a great Substack and stuff as well. Other people were Mercury Tarot and Beth Rees, who is Neurodivergent Tarot, or she was Neurodivergent Tarot. I don't know what's going on with her Instagram now, but they both did great little talks about neurodiversity in tarot, which I'm sure you know by now is something that I'm really interested in. And then also, as always, was Diva, whose full name I think is Diva Mar Cavalcanti, and she did a really great little kind of talk about, a discussion about reading predictively versus reading therapeutically, and about how different places have different rules and different people have different ethics around that kind of stuff. And it was just really fascinating to hear other people's perspectives. I also launched the holistic love readings in my little tarot business, which has been really satisfying to get up on my soapbox about how we all deserve more love in our lives, and to not just find love in heterosexual monogamous relationships. Not that there's anything wrong with heterosexual monogamous relationships, but just that they don't have to be all end all of the love that we have in our lives, and that we all deserve more of it, and yada yada yada. If you watch that video, you know what I mean. And then I also did the a vintage clothes market in Edinburgh as a tarot reader, which was quite a full circle moment for me, because I used to do quite a lot of work with vintage fashion, and it was really nice to see what the vintage fashion girlies are doing now. And yeah, it was something a bit different for me. It was something a little bit brave, and yeah, it was great. Met some really nice people, did some really amazing readings. Quite a lot of people, it was like their first reading, and yeah, it was a bit of a different demographic, and it was really fab. And then also I was part, or I did the I love this deck, it's so weird. The Witch's Black Dance project, which I did over the last, I don't know, 6 weeks or so. And that was my last video that went up, with some reflections on that. And that was really cool to work through. And it worked really well with gearing me up for what is coming up next, which is the Witches of Palestine project, which is a really amazing project that is being mostly put together by Ysha over at Activist Witch, sorry. Ysha at Activist Witch, and it's a brilliant project with, I think it's Glitter Cymru, and some Palestinian people answering questions and raising money, and there's a fabulous raffle going on with some brilliant people and me donating possible prizes of tarot readings and stuff. So do keep an eye out for that. Loads of people are involved. It's going to be fantastic. Other stuff that's coming up for me more like personally and more locally is the Beltane Leith Witchcraft Market is coming up at the tail end of April. I think it's the 27th or something. So if you're in the area, come and say hello. And then there's the Beltane Fire Festival in Edinburgh, which I'm absolutely buzzing to go to. This is another one of my be brave things for this year. It's something that I wouldn't maybe usually do, a little bit outside my comfort zone, but I'm really, really excited for it. So in terms of smaller things, my favourite videos that I've filmed over the last 3 months have been the Finding Your Cards video about like finding your significator card, which was a VR to a Marlena Teresa video, and then also the 78 Things to Live For video, which was kind of like a scruffy VR to a video that Lennon Smith did, and I wasn't convinced it was going to work as a VR. I worried it was just going to be like too chaotic, but I'm quite happy with how it turned out. I thought it was all right. And the people that watched it said that it was kind of fun. And then I really enjoyed being part of the Occult Tea tag and filming a VR and watching other people's VRs and stuff. And it's introduced me to a whole bunch of really great people, but particularly AB over at AB's Witch Journal. Absolutely thrilled to have like met them through this. They brighten my day so frequently. So that's the YouTubes. And then studying, the main thing has been I'm doing a counselling skills course, which I should complete soon, fingers crossed. But then also thinking about like the critical thinking stuff that I've been looking into. I rewatched Noam Chomsky's masterclass on independent thinking and the media's invisible powers, and it's really good. I really recommend it if you have access to it. And then sort of along similar but not the same lines, I watched the one about scientific thinking and communication, which is unfortunately done by Neil deGrasse Tyson, who I'm pretty sure is a bit of a creep. So not necessarily suggesting you watch that one, but it was kind of interesting. And also in my like little studying category, I have what sounds like um, a really lofty kind of academic thing to be doing. I promise you it's not. Is translating the French version of the Poesis Oracle book. I think it was Angel at Feeding My Soul mentioned that you can buy the French version from French Amazon. And while I don't, I really try not to buy stuff from Amazon. And this was in no way a need. This was absolutely a want. And so I don't feel super great about that. But it's been really fun to have the French version of it, and so to be working through it and translating it. And by which I mean Google translating it, or like Apple translating it, or whatever. And then like trying to make it make sense. My French is not good enough to be actually translating poetry, even though I do my Duolingos. But yeah, it's nowhere near good enough to be able to do it like off the bat. So yeah, I'm working on that, which is like a cute little kind of semi-academic, semi-creative project. In terms of consumption, media consumption, I did make a list of all the things that I've watched over the past 3 months, but it was embarrassingly long. So I've cut it down to 3 films and 3 TV series. And that may seem like a lot to some people, and for that, I'm going to have to ask you to suspend your judgment. So I started off the year on like a little bit of a vampire kick, apparently. I watched Only Lovers Left Alive and really enjoyed it. The costume was great, and it was actually a better story than I thought that it would be. It felt like the less silly, maybe more arty version of like What We Did in the Shadows, and I'm here for more of any of that. Then I watched all of True Blood again. I think I watched it when it was coming out. I really liked it at the time. I was too young. I was too young to be watching it. But it's so much better than I remember. It's way funnier. It's way kind of deeper, although like it has more depth to it than I remember. And the performances are way better than I remember. So yeah, I don't know if I finished it the first time round, but it was so good, and I'm so tempted to just go back and watch the whole thing all over again. So another film that I watched was Poor Things, which I've definitely mentioned in at least 2 videos. It was a real eye opener for me to see a really relatable story on screen, but in like a more fantastical, higher costume budget kind of way. I loved it. I don't know, is that too strong a phrase? I felt very seen by it. And I think I mentioned in my last video, I believe that you can make art about things that you know are bad. And I think that an important part of art is to show things that we're uncomfortable with and to kind of poke fun at. And it's like, it's quite subversive, it's not condoning anything. Yeah, I thought it was great. And if you didn't, that's totally fine. Art is subjective. But yeah, I really loved it. And then I also watched Salem, which Kelly Bear mentioned that she'd been rewatching, and I thought I would pick that back up again. And it was so much fun. It was really light and fluffy. I mean, it's kind of dark, but like in a sort of fluffy way, kind of. And costuming is great. I am slightly pissed off that because I've had the theme tune stuck in my head, I've had Marilyn Manson stuck in my head, which is grim. But yeah, it was a fun watch. It's like 3 series, and yeah, it was great. Another film that I watched was All of Us Strangers, which I really loved, but I mean, I think I watched it when I was like nearly due on my period, and I was not in the right frame of mind to watch something that would make me feel that squishy. I had so many feelings. I was actually like haunted by it for a couple of days. But like really strong performances from all the cast, and I thought it was really great. I do want to see more happy gay films though. I don't want anyone to get ill. I don't want anyone to die. I don't want anyone's family to get like disown them or whatever. I just want happy films about gay people. Thank you. And it's making me debate rewatching Fleabag, but I don't know if I want to hurt myself that much. So jury's still out on that one. And then final piece of film or TV I've been really enjoying, X-Men 97. I am an X-Men person. It's the only bit of the Marvel universe that I give a solitary shit about. I used to be a Marvel person. I think the phrase is that they jumped the shark. It all just got a bit much, it all got a bit silly. I lost the thread and never really wanted to pick it back up again. I watched Black Panther in the cinema twice, loved it, thought it was brilliant. That was enough Marvel for me. I was like, it doesn't get better than this. I'm leaving it here. I haven't even watched the second one. So I'm an X-Men person. I kind of want to go back and rewatch all the films. And I think I'm going to treat myself to that. So in 3 months' time, when I do another one of these videos, there will probably be all of the X-Men films on them. But yeah, so that's my TV and film for the last 3 months. And then also I've been getting back into playing some cozy games. The notable ones have been Apico, which is Stardew Valley but for bees. And then on that subject, I've also been playing Stardew Valley since the update. And then also Moonstone Island, which is effectively the same game. I've also been playing Cult of the Lamb, which my computer doesn't really like, but I do. So it's kind of stopped me from really fixating on it, which is probably a good thing because my computer crashes after I've been playing it for, I don't know, an hour or something. And then also A Little to the Left, which is another one of those like organising, tidying games, which I still think is a hilarious genre, but one that I enjoy. And then also one weekend I just sat down and played through the entirety of Strange Horticulture, which I really enjoyed. It's like a plant identification game where you own a little plant shop and your customers come in and tell you bits of the story and you like piece it all together, and there's alternative endings, and so I'll probably replay it at some point. But yeah, it was really good. And then just to finish up on music, I want to share an Emo Kid playlist that a friend of a friend on Instagram shared, that just spoke to my little teenage soul. And then also Descartes A Kant. I don't know how they want you to say it, but I've been really enjoying their music. So that is what's been floating my boat for the past 3 months. Please tell me what's been floating your boat for the past 3 months. If you can remember that far, I'm really glad I kept a list because January already seems a million years ago. Yeah, I hope that this was enjoyable or entertaining or something. I hope you're taking really good care of yourself, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye.